Okay, can you all hear me? This will be interesting through my mask and through everything here today, so I'm glad you can hear me. So we're going to call our meeting to order, and we're going to have a roll call by our city clerk, Kathy Valdez.
Let the record reflect all members are present.
Okay, and with that, and it's interesting because we have these shields between us, and there's reflections, and so we can't really see. I can't really see down there very far, so it's kind of an interesting concept here tonight with you guys too. So with that, we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. If you all rise, Deputy Mayor Green is going to lead the pledge.
Oh, I guess I can. All right, please stand and remove your hats and hoods. Right hand over your heart. Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And next Monday is Memorial Day. This evening, I'd like to begin by acknowledging and remembering our veterans, especially those who've made the ultimate sacrifice while serving our country, including actually my father. We honor every man and woman who responded to the call of duty and gave their life to protect our way of life, and we pay tribute to their families. So with that, I'll go on to the Brown Act, a notice. In accordance with the Brown Act, I'd like to announce that as a result of convening simultaneous meetings, the members of the Buena Sanitation District will receive compensation of $147.75 for the district meeting pursuant to Buena Sanitation District Ordinance 2006-1. We're pleased to be back meeting in person, and we ask that you follow all of the COVID-19 safety precautions. Masks must be worn at all times inside the Civic Center. Please socially distance from those not in your household by keeping a seat empty between groups, and do not sit in the rows that have been closed. If we reach capacity, additional seats will be provided in the lobby where the meeting can be viewed and heard on the video screens. I'd like to remind everyone that the Vista Municipal Code requires members of the public to observe order and decorum at the meeting and to conduct themselves in a courteous manner. The ordinance was adopted to allow for public input and to facilitate city business without disrupting of the meeting. Applause is appropriate for items listed under presentation portion of the agenda only. To speak on an item on the agenda, please fill out a speaker slip with the number of the item you want to speak on. Speaker slips are available just outside the council chambers, and staff are there to accept the completed slips. Speakers will be called up one at a time and will be given time to make their way to the podium. Speakers will have 3 minutes to address the council. And with that, we will go to the approval of the agenda by our city manager, Patrick Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. There are no changes to the agenda this evening.
And our city attorney, Daryl Piper, will bring us out of our closed session.
Thank you, Mayor. The council did meet in closed session to discuss the issues on item CS1 this evening. No action was taken. Nothing is required to be reported.
Okay, thank you. We have one presentation this evening. Ashley Colburn, San Diego County Fair, will be presenting on this year's event, Homegrown Fun. So is Ashley here? Welcome. Yeah, right there. Use the microphone there.
Should I address you or?
Makes sense, yeah.
I feel weird having my back to everyone back there, but my name is Ashley Colburn and I'm from the marketing department at the Del Mar Fairgrounds. And we are very excited because we are able to have an event this year. It's not our traditional fair. We are calling it Homegrown Fun, presented by the San Diego County Fair. And it starts on June 11th and runs through July 4th. And we say that it's a taste of our fair favorites. So we still will have a lot of the favorite traditional foods and some entertainment. And I have a little bit more to show you. You can go to the next slide. So one of the main reasons we can't have the San Diego County Fair is because the Del Mar Fairgrounds is currently one of the largest vaccination stations here in San Diego. And we are actually very proud that we're able to help get our community back on their feet. We've even had some days where there was more than 5,000 a day vaccinations. So that is one thing. They will be continuing to run through the middle of June, which is one reason why we couldn't have, our traditional fair. But we are able to maneuver around the vaccinations and still have our event. So like I said, we're saying it's a taste of the fair. We will have a lot of those food favorites, and we will be following all of the COVID restrictions for this county as well as the state. And so masks will be required for our guests, but we will have, and also we'll have to follow the guidelines of limiting it to about 10,000 people a day. So we have everything, even including reservations and parking, that will all be done online. So that way we're able to really monitor and see, how many people are purchasing tickets and also even scheduling times for the parking. So some of our entertainment, you might be familiar with some of the programs if you did attend the San Diego County Fair. We have the Swifty Swine pig races. So that's a fun favorite for our kids especially. We have the Extreme Dogs, which are dock dogs and agility dogs, and guests or viewers can even meet the dogs afterwards. We will have an area called Agriland, and this is where we're really focusing on the importance of agriculture here in San Diego County. There will be opportunities for kids to milk the cow. We'll also be able to pedal around on tractors and really just learn what kind of agriculture we have here in the county and its importance. So I would say it's really a great event for, all people if they love the food and just want to get out a bit, but definitely for kids, there's lots of activities for them to do. We will have make and takes, which are daily crafts. So if you're arts and crafts lover, those will be changing every day and people can participate for no extra cost. There will be a Ferris wheel, and a carousel. So not as many rides or carnivals as people are used to, but this again is something fun for everyone to enjoy. Pony rides, of course. And then we'll have contests and demonstrations. So there will be some, as much as unfortunately we can't have our big exhibit halls opened where we're used to, those art shows and gem shows, and but there will be some daily contests and exhibits that people have been contacted ahead of time that they'll be there for those. And then of course we'll have some strolling entertainment, live music. We also have Pacific Animal Productions, and they will come and have some exotic animals. So it's not just the farm animals down on the fair, and she'll be teaching the viewers a little bit about how these animals help the farm animals, and even if they, possum and an owl and snakes and things like that. So there will be different stage performances, as well as a juggler and a roaming magician. So here's some pictures on the upper left. That's the extreme dogs. So that'll be a fun show for everyone to watch. We've got, of course, our Swifty Swine racing pigs. They race to get that Oreo cookie at the end, and then the Ferris wheel. So, of course, one thing that is the same, and I know a lot, again, it's worth it, I think, to come just for this, are the shopping halls will be open. So we have 280 different vendors coming to, they love to do those demonstrations with new blenders and mixers, and selling hot tubs and barbecues, and landscape companies will be there. So our exhibit halls will be open for the shopping. So it really, for the price of the ticket, which we'll get to a bit later, but it's $10, it's almost worth it just to go, just if you want to get out and do some shopping, or even just eat the fair food and then be entertained a bit along the way. Oh, this is that is our Sudsies hand washing station for kids. So right up by the Agriland, we're going to have a place where kids can learn the importance of washing their hands, not only during these times, but around animals. So that's what that is on the left. And then we have Plant, Grow, and Eat. And there is also an opportunity for kids to come and plant a radish and take that home with them too. So that's again, part of our highlighting agriculture here in San Diego. And celebrating our community, obviously, the fair has always been known for, all those throughout San Diego County's kids raising their livestock. And so this show will be happening. However, it's not open to the public. So all the hard work they'll still be able to show their animals at the fair or at the Homegrown Fun and be judged. And there will also be a livestock auction, which will be done online. So more information about the auction and how people can bid on the animals will be updated at sdfair.com in the coming weeks. But we are excited that, because last year it was canceled. And so this is a great way that all the hard work and months and effort put into their 4-H and FFA animals, that they are still able to take them to the fair. Back to those demonstrations that we're so used to seeing in the exhibit halls, home arts, gardening, woodworking. Those are what those daily demonstrations are that will be taking place as well. And the very exciting news is we will be having fireworks. So we expect definitely to be sold out on this day. I know everyone is looking forward to seeing fireworks somewhere, and we will follow the COVID guidelines. Everyone keep their distance, but we did get approval, so there will be a fireworks show on July 4th. And to our tickets and parking, how this works is on sdfair.com, you can go and buy your ticket for $10, what 5 and under are free. And you would just indicate how many in your party are 5 and under, just so we can keep a count of everyone that's attending. And then when you go to purchase your parking, which is $12, what you'll do is you'll pick approximately when you want to come during the day. So again, this isn't that strict, but this will then allow us to be able to monitor how many people are coming in and coming out. So that's how we are organizing that. But we also have the North County Transit District Fun Tripper, and for $12, you can have a round trip ticket to Homegrown Fun, as well as entrance. So that's a pretty good deal. And we're also, of course, if people don't want to pay the $12, they can do a ride share program, and there'll be a drop-off place for that as well. And once again, we will be following all the COVID-19 guidelines. And we hope that, even with these guidelines, we can still get San Diegans to come out and have a little bit of fun, get down to the roots where it all started with agriculture, and eat some good food. And we hope all of you will come, and you'll encourage others to come, because we think it's a great opportunity to be part of bringing something back, and having some education along the way too, and of course, some fun. So thank you very much.
So are some of the programs you had on different days? They're on different days?
Yes, so actually the schedule, I believe it was going to be up even tomorrow, but the daily entertainment is basically the same with the magician, and the only thing that's really rotating are those arts and crafts and some of like the woodworking and the home arts. Those are the demonstrations that are changing, but the actual dogs and the Swifty swine, that's there every day.
Oh, it's there every day. Okay.
So there's not so much diversity where it would be something you would be going back again to every day. Like some people would go back for the concerts at the fair and such, right. But in this case, it's not rotating that much. There is some changing musicians and bands, but the main things are staying the same.
And they'll all be listed on sdfair.com?
sdfair.com, yes.
Okay. Deputy Mayor, did you have something you wanted to say?
I just had a question.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I'm on. Sorry, I apologize. Anyways, I heard you say that the animals, or that the students would have a chance to sell their animals at the fair this year.
Mm-hmm.
It's great, because that was one of my questions. The other thing is, I used to always go here for my kids. All the kids would submit the artwork to the the schools, and then you'd put ribbons on it and stuff. I know you said the exhibit halls are open. Are we not going to have any awards for our local students' art this year? Is it something?
Yeah, so the exhibit halls are open for the shopping.
Okay.
And so there's not going to be the typical, collections of artwork and woodworking and that. So yeah, unfortunately, we're not having that to walk around and look and see as well.
Okay, and then maybe I missed it, but was there a set price for the Fun Tripper ticket, which includes the NCTD bus ride plus admission?
That's $12.
$12, and that's from anywhere in the county?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, and I'm glad to hear the animals are going to be there. My 3 daughters all were in 4-H, and they all had animals at the fair every year. So
Yeah, I
that's
did
nice.
too for 10 years. So I can't imagine raising it and then
I
not
can't
being able
either.
to show it.
Not be able to show it and sell it, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Oh, I'm sorry. Katie? Councilmember Melendez.
That's okay. I just want to say thank you, Ashley, so much for coming in and for sharing, getting us excited for summer, and for providing this vaccination site. It's really important, and that we get to enjoy some of the fair this year. Thank you.
Okay, so that will take us to our consent calendar. The recommendations on the following consent calendar will be enacted in one motion unless an item is removed from the calendar. Any member of the public may remove an item by submitting a request to speak card to the clerk's secretary, and items removed from the consent calendar will be considered immediately following adoption of the calendar. We have 9 consent items this evening, and item 9 has been pulled already by the public. And so do I have anything that, Councilmember Franklin?
I would make a motion that we adopt the consent agenda. And I also wanted to request, because I know there's a number of folks that came to speak this evening on PH1 and D2, and I wondered if the council would be amenable to moving D2 ahead of D1.
Do we have to take a vote from our council?
Sorry. Was your motion to move D2 ahead of D1? I'm sorry.
My first motion, I probably out of order to make two motions, but maybe I can make it in one. See if the council's okay with this. If we could motion to approve the consent agenda and to amend the agenda to place item D2 ahead of D1.
Do you have a motion, and do I have a second? Oh, Deputy Mayor Green.
I will second that motion.
Both motions? Yes. Okay, so I guess first we will handle the consent calendar, and then we'll handle the next motion.
I thought it was all one motion. Is it not allowed to be in one motion, City Attorney? To approve the consent calendar and change the agenda position?
No screen tonight, so I have to rely on the help of strangers. The single motion that's on the floor is to do both items, approve the consent calendar, and to switch the two items on the agenda, and that is in order.
And I would second that motion as one. Thank you.
Okay, we have motion and a second, and so please cast your votes. That motion passes unanimously. And so with that, we'll hear on the consent calendar, we have one speaker on item 9.
And Mayor and Council, would you like a presentation or would you like to hear from the speaker?
Speaker? The speaker. Okay, so we'll hear from the speaker. So Michael Saldana.
Good evening. My name is Michael Saldana, and I'm a member of the Vista Firefighters Association, Local 4107. I stand before you tonight in order to present some prepared remarks written by VFFA President Miles Sweeney, who is unable to be here tonight as he is, at this moment, protecting our community along with our brothers at Vista Fire Station 3. His remarks read as such. Madam Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and City Council, my name is Miles Sweeney, and I am the President of the Vista Firefighters Association. I rise tonight to speak on agenda item C9, Workers' Compensation Third-Party Administration Agreement. On behalf of my membership, I would like to thank HR Director Dolores Gascon and HR Risk and Safety Analyst Annalisa Holbrook for allowing the VFFA a seat at the table throughout the TPA RFP and for their valuable time working with the VFFA on finding an amicable solution to the work comp issues plaguing your firefighters. Now, while the VFFA does not agree with the recommendation brought forward to council tonight, we respect the decision made by Human Resources and appreciate Director Gascon's gesture to have AdminSure Claims Adjuster Arlene Lagaretta removed from any role that would have her interacting with your firefighters directly or indirectly. I previously wrote to the City Council in a direct letter from the VFFA dated October 12th, 2020, entitled Request for Proposals for Workers' Compensation TPA Services, respectfully requesting that the City Council reject any proposal presented by AdminSure Incorporated. Tonight, the VFFA would like to rescind that request and letter in full as an act of goodwill and trust building with the City of Vista, with the hope that Human Resources can continue to help our association overcome any further claims administration issues that arise from this third-party administrator. Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council. Have a good evening.
Deputy Mayor Green.
Thank you so much, Mr. Saldana. I don't need any further remarks. I don't need any further presentation. I'm very familiar with item number C9, familiar with the VFFA letter, and I really appreciate staff and the city manager's office and everybody working super hard with our firefighters and all of the members of our staff to have everybody have a seat at the table with our new workman's comp company. So with that, I move that we approve item C9 as presented.
Councilmember Franklin.
I want to express my appreciation to the VFFA and to our Human Resources Department for working cooperatively and the gesture of goodwill. I appreciate that and would second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes. That motion passes unanimously. And that takes us to our public hearing. There's one public hearing this evening. This is a public hearing regarding the cannabis businesses, regulatory inspection, and financial audit program fees. Our city clerk, Kathy Valdez, will provide the staff report.
Thank you, Mayor. In June of 2020, the City Council adopted regulatory inspection and financial audit fees, referred to as Cannabis Management Program, based on a fee study conducted by HDL companies. The City Council directed staff to review the fees after 1 year and determine if any adjustments were needed. Based on 2 initial inspections and staff time spent on cannabis management over the past year, staff is proposing a revised fee schedule effective beginning in fiscal year 21-22. In most cases, less than anticipated staff time has been required due to fewer inquiries, non-compliance issues, complaints, and service calls. A detailed listing of the staff involved and estimated time spent is included as Exhibit 2 in the agenda report. Staff recommends a base annual permit fee of $11,128 and an annual permit fee of $19,967 for those businesses subject to quarterly inspections. These fees are roughly $11,800 and $8,000 less, respectively, than the fees approved last June. Staff will continue to monitor the cost of the Cannabis Management Program and will return to the City Council if any adjustments are needed. Thank you. That completes my report. I'm available to answer questions.
Okay, I have several speakers. I have 3 speakers here. So do I hear the speakers? Everybody shake their head. Okay, shaking heads. Okay, so first speaker, Erica Leary.
Good evening, and we have to keep our masks on to speak. Hope my glasses cooperate. See how this goes. Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Erica Leary. I'm the program manager for the North Coastal Prevention Coalition, which has been around for over 25 years to reduce the harm of alcohol, tobacco, marijuana, and other drugs in the cities of Carlsbad, Oceanside, and Vista through community action, education, support, and collaboration. I wanted to come here in person this evening to follow up with the email that I sent you recently that shares, among other things, the lack of public health protections that have been put in place at both the state and local level, especially with regards to preventing youth access and use of marijuana. The BCC is currently in the process of reorganizing its agencies and still has no protocols in place to conduct decoy or compliance checks. In fact, they had an enforcement committee last week and a general advisory committee this morning, and finally have that on their agenda to address, but it has not been put in place. Decoy and compliance checks are a well-established, effective strategy in preventing youth access, both in the alcohol and tobacco prevention fields. And in fact, the state alcohol beverage control has been conducting delivery compliance checks throughout COVID to prevent alcohol sales to minors. They started in April of 2020 and found an 80% violation rate. They've continued throughout that time, and after routine operations, penalties imposed, and education to licensees, the last time in January, their compliance rate has gone up to 100%. Even here in Vista with tobacco retail licensing, you're well experienced with conducting compliance checks for tobacco sales. And yet in the staff report, there's no mention in this cannabis program to conduct decoy or compliance checks for marijuana sales or delivery to minors, which is extremely disappointing. But you're not alone. In fact, prevention advocates have been asking agencies throughout the region about conducting compliance checks, and not a single agency has been doing them. One of the reasons we get is that it's not safe for the decoy. And that's an extremely unreassuring response, that these businesses are in our communities and it's unsafe to do compliance checks. I also shared with you information from Escondido's recent council meeting, where their staff report included statistics on impaired driving from marijuana and youth diversion from their schools. Such public health and safety measures should be part of your cannabis monitoring program and become an ongoing part of your work with these businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kelly McCormick.
Good evening, council members. My name is Kelly McCormick, and I ask that you delay any decisions on reducing the fee schedule for marijuana businesses. The staff report indicates that less staff time was required than originally anticipated. However, it's quite possible that the number of inquiries, noncompliance issues, complaints, and service calls were reduced due to COVID-19 restrictions. While marijuana businesses were allowed to stay open and in operation during lockdown, there was less traffic at neighboring businesses, fewer opportunities for contact with members of the public, and fewer people who would have been aware of noncompliance issues. You may find that when California opens up again after June 15th, there may also be an increase in complaints and noncompliance issues. On that subject, I also suggest that the city earmark resources for minor decoy operations on the delivery of marijuana. The Bureau of Cannabis Control has not conducted one single enforcement operation on pot delivery, nor does it plan to. This fact was confirmed again in this morning's BCC Advisory Committee meeting. Minor decoy operations are conducted for tobacco retailers and alcohol sales and delivery. The same should be true for marijuana businesses. You may be aware that the Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control conducted several enforcement operations for delivery of alcohol last summer and found a very high sell rate to minors. In one of the sting operations in San Marcos, 6 of the 9 businesses tested were found to have delivered to a minor. If marijuana deliveries are going to minors at a similar rate as alcohol, we are failing to protect our youth and our communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Tyler James is our next speaker.
Good evening, council members. My name is Tyler James. I'm currently a sophomore in high school. I'm speaking tonight because I'm concerned about the easy availability of marijuana and the mixed messages that teens receive from widespread advertising. Since you are discussing the fees for marijuana businesses, I'd like to suggest that you put aside money to provide more education for minors about the risks of marijuana use. While some people my age have heard that marijuana use is harmful to the brain before the age of 25, that message can be drowned out by the billboards and Instagram ads that depict young-looking people seemingly having a great time. But that's not the reality. There are thousands of scientific studies showing that marijuana is harmful to the brain when it's used by teenagers and young adults. Marijuana use is linked to a higher rate of suicide, depression, anxiety, and even psychosis. Vaping or smoking pot can lead to lung and heart damage, in addition to other problems, and people can easily overdose on edibles because they're highly concentrated. Many overdose cases happen in children under 10 because they think they're eating regular candy or cookies. CNN recently aired a report on the increased number of hospitalizations due to edibles. If anything, the city should be putting more money into enforcement and education. Thank you.
Thank you. That brings it back to our council discussion. This is a discussion on regulatory inspection and the financial audit program fees, and I'll go to Councilmember Franklin.
Madam Mayor, I would just say the purpose of this particular action this evening is to correct, now that we have a year under our belt, we have better understanding of the costs involved, and we are required by state law to set these fees as close as possible to our demonstrated costs, and that is the reason that we are considering this item tonight. For that reason, I would make a motion that we adopt the resolution the staff laid before us on this item and close the public hearing.
Councilmember Melendez.
Thank you. When I investigated this item with our city manager, I was curious as to how these fees compare to other cities, and was told that these don't compare to other cities because our medical cannabis Measure Z necessitates these fees. So I'm really glad that we do have these regulatory measures in place. And I will go ahead and second Councilmember Franklin's motion to adopt staff's recommendation for this and the public hearing. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no further discussion, I have a motion and a second, so please cast your votes. That motion passes unanimously. And that moves us to, we're going to take item actually D2 next on the agenda, because that's what we voted on earlier in the meeting, and that's adult use cannabis. And Deputy Mayor Green has asked for this item to be put on the agenda, so I will turn this over to him.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I provided my council with a copy of this letter, which will also be public record at the end of this meeting. Good evening, Madam Mayor and fellow council colleagues. This evening, I bring before you a discussion item regarding adult use of cannabis within our city. As you know, the voters approved Measure Z in 2018, along with Measure AA. Measure Z has been implemented successfully, and we have 11 successful dispensaries open and operating within our town. These medical dispensaries are estimated to generate $5.2 million in tax revenue for our city this fiscal year, July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021. This revenue is not only helping balance our budget, but is also allowing us as a council to allocate additional funding for special projects and programs. After the voters passed Measure Z in 2018, there was a fear of the unknown in the community as to the focused impact these businesses would have on our city. General crime, increased drug use, DUIs, and violence were some of the concerns of implementation. I'm happy to report that the incidents at these businesses have been minimal. All of our licensed dispensaries have been proven to be good players while remaining in compliance and submitting to annual audits. Since 2019, calls for service reported from all dispensaries in town have been consistent with or lower than average calls for service at our local eateries, grocery stores, bars, convenience, and liquor stores. As I previously stated, in 2018, the voters passed Measure AA in addition to Measure Z. This approved measure has already allowed us as a council to create new business opportunities for our existing businesses while creating new innovative businesses and jobs in the testing, manufacturing, delivery, and distribution fields. This measure also allows us as a council to implement adult use within our city and set a tax to be collected upon implementation. Measure AA allows us to set a tax rate between 6% to 12% on adult use within our city. I would propose we direct staff to look to create an ordinance implementing adult use within our city at a tax rate of 7%. This tax rate is the same rate as the medical cannabis tax rate, which was approved by the voters. This tax is not excessive and should allow dispensaries to generate more revenue and cut down on the outside businesses supplying adult use products unregulated via delivery within our city. Conservatively, this policy change could allow an additional 15 to 20% in revenues for our local businesses. Those revenues generate additional taxes that could be used to benefit our city and citizens tremendously. Based off revenues received this year's, from a financial standpoint, the adult use revenue could generate an additional $780,000 to $1,040,000 for the city of Vista. Now, regardless of where you stand on the marijuana issue, we live in a state and in a city where the majority of voters have approved this. It's been approved for medical and adult use in multiple election cycles. It is our responsibility as an elected body to create policies that allow us to carry out the will of the voters. Other cities in our county have seen the success of this industry and are trying to fast track their processes. We owe it to our businesses, our voters, and our city to look into making this a possibility and come up with an ordinance in a timely manner. I don't want to put an official date on this except to direct staff for as soon as possible per our attorney's direction. There's no official motion needing to be made, simply majority consensus needed to direct staff on what to do. I don't know all the particulars and plan to leave it up to our legal department to ensure that we are in compliance with Measure Z and Measure AA as passed by the voters. Our legal department can make sure we're not opening our city up to any undue liability and direct us as to the best path for implementation. So this is what I'm asking from my council. I'm asking for a consensus on the following 4 issues. Number 1, that we direct staff to come up with an ordinance that would allow adult use of marijuana within our city. Number 2, that staff or legal would determine the best course of action for authorized storefronts. Number 3, the tax rate on adult use to be set at 7% per approved verbiage in Measure AA. And number 4, that this ordinance is to be prepared and brought back as soon as possible for an official vote of the council. Again, this is not an official motion, just what I'm looking for in a consensus on this discussion item. I'd love to hear what my colleagues have to say and would love unanimous support from this body. I thank you all for your time and work for the city, and I'm assuming before you all respond that we may have some speakers on this item, but that's what I wanted to lay out for you guys this evening. Thank you.
And we do have speakers on the item, so would you like the speakers first? Everybody shaking your head? Yes, okay. So we'll start with Erica Leary.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Still Erica Leary with North Coastal Prevention Coalition. And more to add to follow up with the email that I sent previously to mention the website and the launch of the International Academy on the Science and Impact of Cannabis. They had their press conference last week, lots of resources on the thousands of studies demonstrating the potential health risks for cannabis. One of its founders, Dr. Ronit Lev, is a local emergency room physician here at Scripps Mercy Hospital. And during the press conference, she noted that of all the drug overdose deaths in her emergency room in San Diego, all of them started their drug use journey with marijuana, every single one. And we know that drug overdose deaths here in the county have tripled from 2019 to 2020, and the trend is not improving. Wanted to also ask if you are aware that a San Diego law firm filed a wrongful death lawsuit back in October 2020 that named several California cannabis companies, including one that recently opened here in Vista. The lawsuit was filed in San Diego Superior Court by the parents of a 28-year-old flight attendant from Alabama who died in October 2018 after ingesting highly potent gummies. A representative from the firm stated that these companies disguise and market these products as safe, fun, and healthy, so far as to represent to customers that the products they deliver will enhance their well-being and provide relief to all who seek it. What they do not tell customers is that the use of their products carry extreme risk of serious injury and even death. It seems like attorneys may have future cases to bring if those in authority continue to ignore public health and safety warnings. I encourage this council to direct staff to work with local resources such as NCPC, hospital organizations, law enforcement, and schools to gather information and recommendations to address the public health concerns around cannabis sales, including advertising, potency, impaired driving, secondhand smoke exposure, reducing access to those 18 to 20, and compliance checks, as we previously mentioned. Until we take a more comprehensive approach, marijuana will continue to be the most commonly used drugs by youth. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Milano?
Good evening, Council. Thank you. And thank you, Kathy, for all your help in this last year. It's been interesting. So anyways, I would just like to express my hope that the Council can find its path to authorizing adult use. We see daily in our shops, and I'm sure if you hear from other shop owners, that we probably have 10 to 20 people walk in and walk out and go to the black market because they don't want to get a medical card from a doctor. They don't want to be on a list. They immediately, and they express it to us, oh, I'll just go to my connection, the random shop on Santa Fe that happened to just pop up, all those places that come and go. I actually am very concerned about minor use of cannabis. I have 3 children, 8, 18, and 19. 19-year-old is an active duty Marine now, so he's kind of covered in the Marine Corps. I'm also a veteran, United States Army. Big concern of mine that children do not have access. I believe that the easiest way to control that access is through regulated sales and the regulations that we follow and the city checks to make sure we're following. All the operators, I'm sure I speak for all of them, we're in favor of this. Yes, it'll help our revenue. It'll also help the city, and it'll help the proliferation of illegal drugs throughout the city and county. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you. Tyler James?
Good evening, this is Tyler James, and as a teen, I think it sends the wrong message to change the designation of marijuana businesses from medical to adult use. This has been a wish of the marijuana industry the whole time, a fact that's well documented. This is not unlike the early years of tobacco marketing, when doctors, or at least actors who playing the part of doctors, told consumers that cigarettes would help with everything from morning sickness to weight loss and anxiety. We are aware of the damage caused by cigarettes and the dangerous lies told by the tobacco industry. Also, a tobacco giant, Altria, is a major investor in the marijuana industry. Thank you.
Thank you. Kelly McCormick.
Hello, Kelly McCormick. I would just like to reiterate, as a public health educator and somebody who runs a youth mentoring program, that I think this sends the wrong message. We are a long way from, the medical use aspect when we were talking about people with cancer and AIDS and things like that, perhaps using marijuana to ease their pain, to anybody being able to get a medical card quite easily, including teenagers. And we are seeing a rise in youth use, and especially use of high THC concentrates. And those are the ones that are most dangerous for developing brains because they literally change the pathways in the brain. And people who need medical marijuana items are able to get those at a CVS. And those include things like Epidiolex for seizures and other FDA studied and peer-reviewed and approved medications that use marijuana. Anything else is not approved for medical use. And so it's speculation and actually illegal to call it medical. And I'd just like to say that we need to do more to protect our teens from marijuana. And, saying that people that aren't able to get recreational pot at a regulated dispensary just go to the black market, then the answer to that is not to make it all recreational. The answer to that is to continue cracking down on the black market marijuana. So that's what I would encourage you to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Justin Christian. It's Chrisman, sorry.
I've been called worse, don't worry. Thank you all for all your time and efforts today. I'd like to reiterate Mike's, to Kathy, everybody that's been in our shop, doing our compliance checks. We do have frequent compliance checks by the city. We are also audited by the BCC, sales and use tax through the CDTFA at the state level, and also the IRS at the federal level. So I assure you, we are the highest, most regulated industry in the United States. And at the end of the day, I think we all here agree on the same thing. We don't want a black market. We don't want children accessing this. We want safe, lab-tested medicine for all. Yes, there comes an economic benefit to you guys, also a social benefit to the city and its citizens with safety, being able to fund more deputies, more healthcare, more education. There's also studies that prove underage consumption goes down in legal, regulated markets. So I implore all of you guys to let's put our children first, let's put our city first, let's put the constituents who vote for this overwhelmingly, repeatedly first, and let's have a highly regulated, safe access adult use market. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all of our speakers. I would add before I open it up here is that I would just, if we're going to go forward, I would not like billboards for advertising. I'd like to somehow ban billboards or advertising for kids. And that would be an important thing for me. And as far as the going adult use, I think that to get the card, the medical card, I think you can do it online. I think people haven't had problems with that. So I don't see any reason to not approve this. I think anybody that wants to go there pretty much goes there. It would make it just opens it up so they don't have to go online and get a card. So I'll go to Councilmember Franklin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I appreciate all those who came tonight to speak on the subject. And I do agree with the point that we, in order to protect children, we do have to continue to work to eradicate the black market. And the best way to do that is to deprive them of the customer base that they currently enjoy. In many conversations with people from all walks, including people that own dispensaries and who are customers, I always look at policy and say, does it make sense if you really take a minute to understand what's going on here? And when you see the incredibly low barrier, but still a real business barrier to obtaining a medical recommendation, which is different from the county and the state's, I guess, prescription, you'd call it. There's not a fundamental difference for somebody, as you said, Mayor, who's motivated And so I think in order to make the policy make sense, I think this proposal, and I support it because it does make sense. I think also very important, Oceanside is currently considering legalizing adult use. And, now that the citizens of Vista have voted to legalize and approve Measure Z, and we have, 11 stores and investors who have created jobs in our city, I think we want to do everything we can to protect those who have invested here and created jobs. And we want to protect the tax base, frankly, from, poaching from neighbor cities. And I think the point that, and when we authorized our Measure Z dispensaries to apply for delivery license, it was because we acknowledged the fact that illegal companies are already delivering every day at all times of the day in our city. And I think this is exactly the point, is the illegal delivery services are not checking medical recommendation cards. They are a significant source of competition with our legal and heavily regulated industry. So for those reasons, I think I'm definitely supportive of this, and appreciate Deputy Mayor Green for bringing it forward.
Councilmember Contreras.
I want to thank Deputy Mayor Green for bringing this item forward. When we talk about adult recreational, I think it's really important to understand what that is. The restriction on it is simply you're 21 and older with a valid ID. Is that correct, City Attorney? Okay, so, when we're discussing medical, we're actually looking at a lower age, which is 18 and over with the medical recommendation. Is that correct? Yeah. So when we look at adult recreational, we actually are setting the bar a little bit higher. I too have heard from many, many people that, for whatever reason, they do not want to submit to the medical recommendation. And that's a lot of lost business that goes directly to another source where it's not regulated. So we have seen historically that prohibition does not work. It did not work for alcohol, and it certainly has not worked for cannabis. So we as a body really have a responsibility, not only to the business community that we have here in Vista, but to our residents to do everything that we can to ensure that we are trying to destroy any illegal source of cannabis out there. That is detrimental to our community when you can just say, whatever, I'm not gonna go somewhere that's regulated. I'm gonna go somewhere else. And that's where, an unregulated system for cannabis distribution brings with it a lot of issues, including higher crime, more violence. There's been instances in San Diego County where there have been shootouts. That is not happening with our regulated cannabis businesses here. And to put them at a disadvantage is not the appropriate thing for this council to do. So I really, really do commend Deputy Mayor Green for bringing this forward. I do approve of the 4 points that he has asked for feedback on. I would say, though, I 100% agree, and I have stated this publicly before, that we do need compliance checks, just like we would have decoy operations for tobacco. I want to ensure that if we are receiving so much revenue that we are, I understand it's already super regulated, but I feel like we could do a little bit more on that front. I don't know if my colleagues would be amendable to that, but I would like for staff to see, hey, are there any kind of gaps with compliance checks, decoy operations? I believe with the tobacco compliance, it's not a huge number of dollars per year to fund that operation. So I think if we're going to be doing that for a regulated tobacco market or regulated alcohol market, we should also do that for a regulated cannabis market. I don't see that as a significant hurdle for our businesses, especially when we are discussing our youth here in the city of Vista. Now, when it comes to enforcement, we have it set in a really good process here to ensure that our businesses are complying with the law. Previously, before Measure Z and before we had any regulated cannabis business here in the city of Vista, we had a lot of illegal businesses operating. I think at one time we may have had somewhere around 12 or more. And it cost the city a significant amount of money to address those concerns. I am not 100% sure what the figure was, but I do remember it being over $1 million that the city of Vista spent on enforcement without generating any revenue in return. So now we have a completely different situation. And I really do support adult recreational. Again, the bar is higher. You have to be 21 years or older. The people of Vista continuously, when polled or when it's something on the ballot, have told us, we want this business. And it's not even by a slim margin. It is by a significant percentage of voters that say, yes, this is what we want. To address the mayor's concern about billboards, they look super tacky. That's one thing, right? And then again, like we've heard from some of our youth here in Vista, we want to cut down on mixed messaging to our youth. I do believe that we are not able to, at this time, billboards are not allowed in the city of Vista. Is that correct? So I think that's good. I don't want, just because we adopt adult recreational, that we have, glowing marijuana leaves everywhere. So I 100% support that. That concludes my comments on this item. Thank you.
I would just agree on advertising, like it could be on cars, or it could be, just no advertising to the kids, or make it attractive looking to that. So, Councilmember Melendez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Deputy Mayor Green, for your leadership, bringing this item to the agenda so that we can discuss it. Many residents and citizens of Vista want to see this happen, and so it's important for us to entertain this kind of conversation. I think that's part of us doing our due diligence. I think most of my colleagues said, many of the things that I agree with. And one thing that I can contribute to this conversation is that I have worked in recovery. And that's what I was doing before I was elected to council. And I am of the position that a harm reduction and evidence-based approach is what saves lives. And that's what this is. Abstinence only and a prohibition approach creates a culture of shame and secrecy around substance use, and therefore our dangerous black market will continue to thrive. So I am very supportive of this discussion, very supportive of us allowing our medical dispensaries that have been approved through Measure Z to expand, right, their essentially their client base, right? Even though they might not have a medical card, they're still attempting to utilize services there. And so I am supportive of that. But one thing I do want to discuss with the council and think that should be part of this discussion is equity. I don't think that we can stress enough how much certain communities, especially communities of color, have been victims of an unfair, punitive, and unjust system surrounding cannabis use in the past. And so if the city of Vista, as we choose to expand our cannabis sales to not just be medical, but also to be recreational, I want us to consider how we can be leaders and how we can be leaders in the fight for equity and ensure that people who are marginalized or people who have been disenfranchised by prior laws regarding cannabis use have been victimized, and how we can maybe undo some of that. So that would be one of the direction that I would encourage staff to look at, try to find models of equity for cannabis businesses in other cities or other communities and see how the city of Vista can do that as well, because I think that's something that we oftentimes leave out. I know that this has become a very profitable business, especially other cities. Vista, we don't want to lose out on an opportunity, but I just don't want us to forget some of our history in that as well. And we have to recognize that many communities have been unfairly victimized by an unjust system that now many of our businesses are being able to profit from. So I am very supportive of this. I think that it is a harm reduction and evidence-based solution to reducing our black market sales. And thank you so much for bringing this to the table.
Councilmember Franklin.
Yeah, just to pick up on something I think was important that Councilmember Melendez said, I'm not sure if we addressed it yet in the conversation, was I would definitely be in favor of extending the adult use to the Measure Z businesses. Did you envision going beyond that, or because that would be where I would want to leave it, is with our Measure Z businesses, and also to second what was said about perhaps we could request a briefing at our next conversation about current enforcement tactics as a prelude to a discussion about other enforcement activities, because I don't know that we've received a briefing yet before the public on enforcement tactics and strategies, but I think that would be important for us to hear. And then I know we do have a general ban on billboards. There's still a number of them that are grandfathered in the city. Are those grandfathered ones the only ones that essentially are allowed?
At this time, that is correct.
Yeah. Do you have any idea off the top of your head? I mean, we have less than 20, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think it's just a handful.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Green.
All right. Thank you so much, colleagues. It's green, so I know my microphone's on now. It's been too long since I've had to push all these buttons and not just be on a Zoom meeting. First of all, I really appreciate everybody's input. I think it's awesome. There's a lot of things I don't think about, and that's why we all have all these different opinions and different sources of investigating. So decoy operations, I think, are fantastic. I think if we could work something out with the implementation of this program where some of the funds used are for youth diversion and decoy operations, that'd be great. I think if we could get a report on what type of enforcement has been done and what type of decoy operations, if any, have been done to date, would be good. Additionally, the implementing more programs for the marginal and disenfranchised youth of our community, that's something we could look at with additional funds. If there was anybody in those communities that is possibly serving time for a marijuana-related charge, I know there's state guidelines in there, and there's the DA always looking at those type of charges when you can get people out of jail who shouldn't be in jail for things that are legal now. But definitely something that we should look into, and then make sure that all of the youth in the area understand the risks. I think we need to have more programs, for youth. There used to be a lot more, I feel like, and hopefully getting into this post-COVID time, we'll be able to put there. I just want to make sure everybody knows that this isn't something that we're trying to legalize. It's already legal in the state. We've checked the voting figures, and the city has already passed that they want adult recreational use. So it was passed by the majority of our voters. Also, when it comes to restrictions and regulating operational businesses, I just want to point out kind of what Councilwoman Contreras said is prohibition didn't work. There's not a whole bunch of people illegally brewing beer and trying to sell it on the black market, and no moonshiners out there these days I'm aware of in the city. And there were 17 to 21 illegal dispensaries in Vista before we implemented Measure Z. And it was like we called it knock-a-mole or pop-a-mole, whatever that old game was, is you knock one down, another one would pop up. And the way that we've been able to get rid of the illegal dispensaries is having good players within our city reporting these industries and these businesses that aren't abiding by our guidelines, that are providing products that are dangerous to our kids. So this really is a move by the council to not only implement the will of the voters, but do something to protect our community as well. And I think it goes hand in hand. So I want to thank you guys so much for all of your input, and hopefully staff has direction on where we want them to go. Thank you so much.
Okay, that leads us on to our last discussion item, which was the Budget Manager Sarah Taylor is going to provide the staff report on our draft fiscal years 2021-22 and 22-23 operating budget.
And Sarah will be here momentarily.
Oh, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Mike Sylvia, Finance Director. I'm here with Sarah Taylor, our Budget Manager. She'll be walking us through our 2-year operating budget for fiscal years 21-22 and 22-23.
Good evening, Mayor and Good evening, Mayor and Council. The purpose of this discussion item is to review the draft operating budget and receive direction from City Council prior to presenting the final budget for adoption at the June 8th meeting. There is a great amount of effort that is put into development of the budget, and I would like to thank staff from all departments who contributed to the production of the budget. This presentation will include an overview of the total operating budget, the general fund revenue and expense estimates, as well as an overview of each of the 6 major spending categories.
Sarah?
Yes.
If you could move the microphone closer. There you go.
Perfect. Yeah. I'm trying to get the slide to move to the next one. As was described in the operating budget overview, the city operates on a 2-year budget process as a means to use human resources more efficiently and to reinforce the city's commitment to long-term fiscal health by extending forecasting past a 1-year period. A draft of the fiscal years 2021-22 and 2022-23 operating budget is being presented for City Council review. Staff has evaluated the financial, operational, and maintenance needs of the city and its associated agencies and is recommending a total budget of $162 million for fiscal year 21-22 and $166.6 million for fiscal year 22-23. As this slide illustrates, general fund or unrestricted monies, shown in green, fund the bulk of the city's expenses, including general government and all of public safety. Non-general funds, shown in blue, are restricted as to the type of activity for which the money can be spent. Most of public works, for example, is funded by non-general funds. The transfers out category is $33 million for fiscal year 21-22 and $36 million for 22-23. This category includes transfers out to fund debt services, transfers to reserves to fund future capital purchases, transfers to general fund subsidized budget units, and transfers to capital project funds. This slide shows the general fund revenue summary by type. Page 28 of the staff report, or page 19 of the draft budget document, provides a summary showing historical data as compared to the projected revenues. General fund revenues and resources are estimated to be $94.9 million in fiscal year 21-22 and $97.3 million in fiscal year 22-23. As discussed at the budget overview, some of the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic on revenues were milder than earlier predicted. Property tax was largely isolated, and we also saw some increases in sales tax as a result of the Wayfair Act. Other revenue sources are anticipated to continue to be impacted. These include transient occupancy tax, charges for services in the Recreation and Community Services Department, as well as investment revenue. A majority of general fund revenues come from just a few sources, including property tax, sales tax, and charges for services. These 3 revenue sources account for about 70% of the general fund revenue sources. The remaining 30% of general fund revenues are made up of a variety of sources, as shown on the slide. Prop L revenue of $9.8 million in fiscal year 21-22 and $10 million in fiscal year 22-23. The revenue from Prop L funds the associated debt service, as well as $1.2 million in fire service operations. The city is scheduled to receive approximately $26 million in coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds established by the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. This allocation has not been included as part of the draft operating budget, and a separate staff report will be brought to City Council to discuss a spending plan that is in line with City Council goals and allowable under the American Rescue Plan Act guidelines. Medical cannabis tax revenues have also been capped at $4 million in each fiscal year, while the amount collected is estimated to exceed $5 million. There's still uncertainty at what level this revenue will stabilize due to potential approval of medical and adult use cannabis businesses in other jurisdictions. At the operating budget overview, the City Council provided a list of potential uses for the excess funds. Staff is evaluating the cost of these items as well as alternate funding sources and will bring back a separate staff report at a future meeting. Before moving on to the expense overview, this slide shows projected general fund revenues compared to expenses. We all know that public safety costs are the highest cost in any agency. As displayed, you can see that all of the city's property tax, sales tax, other taxes, and medical cannabis tax revenues are needed to fund public safety costs. The addition of the medical cannabis revenue has directly helped fund public safety services. The next slide shows an overview of estimated expenses. Page 30 of the staff report or page 21 of the draft budget document provides a summary showing historical data as compared to the projected expenses. General fund expenses and uses are projected to be $94.2 million in fiscal year 21-22 and $97 million in fiscal year 22-23. This includes transfers out in both fiscal years to pay debt service for Prop L, transfers out to CIP, and subsidies to non-general fund budget units, including senior nutrition, the Lighting and Landscape Maintenance District, and the Wave Water Park. This slide shows the total revenues and resources over the expenditures and other uses for the general fund in both fiscal years. It is projected that the ending fund balance will be $658,000 for fiscal year 21-22 and $275,000 for fiscal year 22-23. The first expense category we will review is general government, which provides leadership and administration for the city. Additionally, this category includes economic development and non-departmental functions that are not related to a specific department, such as communications and contingency funds for the general fund budget units. A summary of this category can be found starting on page 77 of the staff report or page 68 of the draft budget document. General government expenses are just under 11% of the general fund and total approximately $9 million in fiscal year 21-22 and $9.4 million in fiscal year 22-23. The public safety category is also entirely funded by the general fund. A summary of these expenses can be found on page 101 of the staff report or page 92 of the draft budget document. This category includes law enforcement, which is provided by the San Diego County Sheriff's Department. A notable increase in fiscal year 21-22 is a 4.5% increase to the San Diego Sheriff's Department contract. This will start the 5th year of a 5-year City Council approved contract. This category also includes the services provided by the fire department, which include fire prevention and suppression, emergency medical services, and disaster preparedness. Included in the fire suppression budget for fiscal year 21-22 are funds to replace 2 Pierce pumper engines at $877,000 each, and in fiscal year 22-23, funds to replace 2 brush rigs at $540,000 each. These vehicles are replaced on a replacement schedule and funded with money set aside in previous years. Public safety expenses are just over 67% of the general fund expenses and total approximately $55.5 million in fiscal year 21-22 and $57.1 million in fiscal year 22-23. The next slide shows the breakdown of expenses for the community development category. A summary of this category can be found starting on page 125 of the staff report or page 116 of the draft budget document. Community development represents just under 10% of general fund spending and is shown on the slide. As shown on this slide, non-general funds play a little more of an important role in funding expenses in this category. The non-general fund budget units include sewer engineering and sewer administration for both the Vista Sewer and Buena Sanitation District. Both are joint members of the Encino Wastewater Authority, and the annual cost of sewage treatment and plant facility maintenance are the most significant expenditures in the sewer administration budget units. $4.9 million in Vista Sewer Administration and $1.9 million in Buena Sanitation District Administration. in fiscal year 21-22. Community development expenses are estimated at $23.2 million in fiscal year 21-22, and $22.3 million in fiscal year 22-23. Similar to community development, the public works category is funded mostly by non-general funds. Public works represents just under 5% of general fund spending. Non-general fund sources include gas tax, maintenance district assessments, and sewer fees for sewer maintenance. A summary of these expenses can be found starting on page 175 of the staff report or page 166 of the draft budget document. Public works expenses are estimated at $15.7 million in fiscal year 21-22 and $15.2 million in fiscal year 22-23. The next slide shows the breakdown of recreation and community services, which is over 8% of the general fund expenses. This expense category was the hardest hit by the COVID-19 pandemic, as reflected in the revised 2021 budget. The summary for this area of expense can be found on page 217 of the staff report or page 208 of the draft budget document. This category includes recreation programs, the Vista Adobe, senior services, senior nutrition programs, cultural arts, and the Wave Water Park. Recreation and community services programs continue to be impacted as a result of increasing minimum wage to $15 per hour by the year 2020. The city employs almost 500 temporary and seasonal employees during the year to support the various recreation and community service programs. The draft budget includes proposed recreation and community service fee increases for summer 2021 and calendar year 2022. Staff annually reviews the fees to enable the city to continue providing the community with valuable services through the Recreation and Community Services Department and are included as Exhibit 3 to the agenda report. The proposed budget assumes that all programs will closely return to pre-COVID levels by the end of fiscal year 21-22. Recreation and community services expenses are estimated $9.5 million in fiscal year 21-22 and $10.4 million in fiscal year 22-23. Moving on to the final expense category, internal services. This budget units exist solely to support other city departments and are funded by charges to all other budget units. This summary starts on page 241 of the staff report or page 232 of the budget document. There is virtually no outside source of funding for this category. Fleet maintenance, which is managed by Public Works, is responsible for the replacement of non-safety vehicles. 20 non-safety vehicles are projected to be replaced in fiscal year 21-22 and 9 non-safety vehicles in fiscal year 22-23. Internal service funds, a non-general fund spending category, are projected at $16.1 million in both fiscal years. This concludes the draft budget presentation. Thank you for your time and attention. It has been my pleasure to represent the staff who have prepared the fiscal years 2021-22 and 2022-23 operating budget. Staff is available for any questions you may have.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation, and thank you for going over all of the information. A lot of us went over it earlier, but thank you for making that presentation, and you've done a good job, very understandable the way you presented it. So we're pass it over to Deputy Mayor Green.
All right. Thank you, Sarah. And thank you so much for the hour you spent with me earlier going over these 305 pages of numbers. It was great. I have 2 COVID questions first on the budget. So my first question, you may have mentioned it somewhere in a previous meeting, but I know when COVID first started, as a council, we allocated a certain amount of money from our emergency reserves, not our actual reserve, but our emergency reserves for, I think it was $8 million or something like that. How much of that did we end up actually using? I know you said that we did better than we thought, but how much of that did we end up using, and how much do we, I'll know what we have left over, but how much do we use of that?
Yes, Deputy Mayor, at this point, we haven't used any of that reserve. It was, that is actually the structural budget deficit reserve, and yeah, it was just under 9 million. It was 8.9 if I remember right.
Perfect. Well, that's great. So that's good news number one. The other question I had for you is, for years prior to COVID, we allocated a subsidy for the Moonlight, but they were doing so good we didn't have to give them the subsidy. I know with the cancellation of the entire season last year, there were a lot of jobs lost and they were kind of hit pretty hard. Do we anticipate having to increase that subsidy? I know what you said was that by the end of the fiscal year 2020, which is 6/30/2022, by then you assume we'll be somewhere back to normal, but I was wondering, do we need to increase the subsidy for the Moonlight on this budget, or have we already allocated enough funds to make sure they're going to be good up until we recover?
In this current fiscal year, we may see a larger subsidy than we have in years past, but programmed in the budget with the Moonlight bringing back a 4-show season this summer season, their subsidy is budgeted at less than $200,000 for both fiscal years.
Okay.
It's a budgetary subsidy, so if expenses come in under and revenues come in over, there may not be a subsidy from the city.
Okay, but that's something that we would have authority to kind of mess with if we needed to moving forward without having to do any type of budget altercations or anything, correct? Patrick, we've allocated it $200,000 right now.
And we don't anticipate having to allocate.
We don't anticipate
more,
having to use that or having to
come back
allocate
the
more.
Council.
Okay.
But I know the council knows this, but for the audience's benefit, we do partner with the Moonlight Cultural Foundation, which provides substantial relief from that subsidy.
Okay.
And so once again, they are providing their subsidy relief to us, and I think we'll be okay for this year.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure we're okay on that. So those were my only COVID questions. Question number 2 is, I just wanted to verify the cost on these engines is pretty pricey. And I know that as a council, we set aside money for reserves kind of prepping for this. In 2023, when we replace these last 2 engines, does that mean we have an entire new fleet of engines at that point in time?
I believe we'll have a fleet that's 5 years old or less. Yeah.
And prior to us replacing this, they were what, like 15 years old or something like that? Or
we have reserve engines that are beyond the 10-year mark to 15-year mark, but I believe right now, once these 2 engines are in service, we'd have engines that were all 5 years or less.
Okay, perfect. And then the last question.
That I should say on the front line.
Perfect. And then the last question was inter-service funds as far as fleet replacement. When you talked about that, I just want to make sure that we verify to the public that there are certain electric vehicle requirements that we're going to have to comply with. I would assume not only for our climate action plan, but just for the state of California that we live in, within this budget or forecasting forward with our reserves and allocations. Are we making plans so that we're ready to transition to an electric fleet of electrical vehicles as required by the state in the future?
I believe there is discussion in regards to, as we look at our replacement schedules, kind of reviewing.
I just want to make sure we're not
those
replacing
requirements.
vehicles with things that we're going to have to throw out in 2 years. I don't want to be buying brand new gas powered vehicles. And then in 2 years, the state says, hey, everything's got to be electric. So if we know there's mandates coming down the pike, I just want to make sure we're not, being good stewards of the money from that aspect. So those are all my questions. Thank you so much. It was great. I appreciate your time earlier today as well. Thanks for answering all.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor, if I could clarify for our passenger vehicles, as part of the climate action plan that you'll be hearing about on June 1st, we are looking in the future towards replacing those with electric vehicles.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That's great news.
Councilmember Franklin.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank the council and staff. We came through a really tough financial crisis as well as a health crisis. And, in some ways we got lucky financially, but in other ways it was really because of our planning and because of some tough decisions that we made that we're in the great financial shape that we're in. And I really do want to compliment our management team for making sure that we came through this in a solid financial position where we didn't have to. And frankly, to talk about, we have the structural deficit reserve fund on top of our emergency reserves, so that we're holding a little bit back to make sure that we're not ever in a deficit situation again, and that's much appreciated because I think that obviously was something that was very important to me early on in my service in the council, and I think it's very important. And I just wanted to offer this word of caution as we come into this very large sum of money from the federal government that we didn't plan to have. Oftentimes when we buy new things, they come with additional responsibilities and obligations, maintenance costs we didn't expect, replacement part costs we didn't expect, long-term program costs. And I think I just want to say, I want us to be careful to make sure that we emerge from the Brewster's Millions opportunity that's being laid in front of us, and make sure that we come out of it in better shape than we went into it. I don't mean to be funny, but seriously, as as you start spending a lot of money, the consequences can be, there can be unintended consequences in future obligations. So I want to make sure that we're just as healthy in 10 years financially as we are today. I think that's incredibly important. We've done a great job. Vista has an A++ reputation now financially, and I want to make sure it stays that way for a long time to come. So thank you to everybody who played a part in getting us there.
Councilmember Contreras.
Yeah, thank you so much for putting this together. Obviously, this is one of the most critical pieces of information, not only for the council, but also for the public. And it's what runs our city, right? We have to use real money. And here it is before us. But I do have a question. I want to bring to light a conversation that I had with our city manager. And I have a question regarding the internal services on draft page 232. And it says, expand citywide online safety training program for all employees. In a discussion that I had with the city manager in regards to our strategic plan to address homelessness, we have a lot of departments that in their daily duties have an interface with our unsheltered population. And one of my concerns is that regardless of how long someone has been doing a job and has life experience and thinks that they're having best practices, I want that to be paired with also different certifications, right? Just to ensure that we do have best practices. Is this addressing that concern that I had?
Councilmember, no, that is not addressing that concern. That is for us to do more safety trainings internally. Your commentary was employees that I believe was work with homeless individuals for what types of trainings are available to them. And we've already started that process to engage our code enforcement division on that training. I know the Sheriff's Department already has training in dealing with homeless individuals. Obviously, the social worker has that, but we are starting that process of working with the county to provide that same training to our code enforcement division.
Okay, so that's not a budgetary item.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Melendez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you so much, staff, for your diligence in putting together this draft budget for us. I am really grateful for all of the residents who showed up to this meeting tonight as well. I think it's a really great illustration. There's so many numbers, right? There's so much that our city has to pay for in order to keep it running and keep it beautiful. And I think it can be difficult, right, when we're looking at such a huge collection of expenses, how someone's daily comings and goings might be affected by our city budget. And so something that's come up in conversations with residents is, concrete, their experience, their own block, their own backyard of what those expenses look like. So if you could answer just a really simple question for me to relay to residents here, what is the cost of a single street light in the city of Vista, so that we can kind of translate a lot of this information into something that's really kind of tangible and for our own backyard?
Councilmember Melendez, are you talking about the installation or the construction of a new street light, or are you talking about the operational cost of maintaining an existing street light?
Both.
Okay, well, the construction cost for a street light is somewhere near $100. I want to say it's close to $120,000. And that includes having to program for that, underground, wire, connect, do all that. The average cost of maintenance on a street light, I don't know if Ms. Taylor or Mr. Sylvia has that.
I don't have it broken down by a particular street light. Are we talking about street light or not traffic signal, correct?
Yeah, street
Okay.
lights. We can provide you that. We just don't have it off the top of our head.
Yeah, that's fine. And I also think that reflects back to Councilmember Franklin's comments, right? That if we bring anything new into our community, there's that maintained expense as well. So I just want to say a big thank you to staff for helping us get through this really difficult time. And I hope that our citizens and our residents see that we're in a really good position now. We want to stay there. But we also have, goals in the future, not only recovering, but I want to see how we can continue to invest in our community, continue to make sure that our community is getting all the resources and needs met. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Seeing no other speakers on this, this is like a receive. You don't need a motion, right, on this?
Actually,
It says receive the report,
that's fine.
right? Okay. Okay, so that was just a receive and file, I guess, sort of thing. So with that, we move on to our oral communications. And each speaker is given 3 minutes to speak on matters that are not on the agenda. And I see a lot of the Angel's Pantry people here. Just so people know on oral communications that we aren't, because it's not agendized items, that we aren't going to be speaking on those items. So I will start here. I have several speakers. So we'll start with Jana Logman, is that? Sorry, I didn't mean to.
You want me to keep wearing this, right? I have to keep wearing my mask, correct? Okay.
Yeah, speak right in the microphone, then we can hear you well.
Don't touch it?
You can touch it.
Well, it says don't touch it. Okay. Hi, members of the City Council. Thank you for listening. My name is Jana Leugman, and my social media name is Angel. My husband Mark and I started what is known as the Angel's Pantry and Community Cupboard as a small neighborhood library in March 2020 as COVID became a reality in our country. We quickly added cans of food as many people were losing incomes and their livelihoods. Our neighbors and community partners started to pitch in, and things just took off from there. As a member of the Buy Nothing Vista project, we posted for our neighbors in need throughout the Vista community. It was and continues to be a beautiful and heartwarming to see those with an abundance in their life wanting to help members of this community that are less fortunate. Everything in this cupboard is free. The outpouring of sharing helped the cupboard grow organically. Local grocery stores and other entities heard about us and their surplus food to help our mission and offered this food and their energy to us. These other resources gave freely to us in order to help keep food from the landfills and going to waste by having me share with the friends and neighbors of Vista. In meeting everyone who comes to the cupboard, I got to know the beautiful hearts of the people of this city. Community evolved beyond the needs for food of the body. Food for our souls began to be forged. Here is one family's experience from a note just last week that I would like to share. Dear Angel, the thanks must go to you. Once COVID hit, my husband was out of work and shortly his company closed. For a couple of months, we were really struggling, and then my 13-year-old daughter became very depressed. When I started to go to your home in early December, I felt a peace when I arrived, and you were so kind to me that day. We didn't get to talk very much, but I have so much to thank you for. You have taught me that it takes a village to survive. You have never shut your doors when I needed bread or a salad for my lunch or dinner. For some of us that grew up with so little, your smile, compassion, and warmth reminded us that there are good people out there who don't judge others. I will always pray that an angel watches over you and your husband. I went straight to my parents' home and shared all of your food and goodies that you gave us. My mother was amazed to hear that you opened your home to all the community and still had enough for her. I should have taken a picture of her smile. Please don't let anyone or anything bring you down.
Jana, your time is up. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you. Mark, her husband is next. Is it Leugman? Pronounce your last name for me.
It's Leugman.
Leugman? Okay.
Yes. Thank you for giving the opportunity for us to speak. My name is Mark Leugman. My wife and I have put our heart and souls into this service for the past 14 months. I'm sorry to say that our recent experience with the city in the past week has not been good. To be cited by the city for trash and debris is not only unconscionable considering what we were trying to attempt to do, but also unprofessional and downright rude. Think of a time when each of you needed assistance in some way or other. Think of a time when someone you knew or someone you loved was down on their luck. Where did they get assistance? Where did they turn to for help? We've provided that service. We've helped people at our own expense. We've brought this community together. We've assisted folks who we didn't know until we met them at our cupboard. And we've provided a service that was not available to them anywhere else in this community. We provided this service with dignity, compassion, and caring. I would ask that the City of Vista take a hard look at a method or a way to reach a resolution in order to help us continue to do what we do for this community and for your neighbors with the same compassion, caring, and dignity that we all deserve. I'll read the closing statement from my wife because she ran out of time. In a community, folks talk about challenges and work towards resolving the issues. Both the neighbor who made the complaint, the single complaint about this cupboard in the past 14 months, and the city should have come to us and had a conversation first instead of threats and harassment. We did a really great thing for 14 months to help those in the Vista community on many levels, including food. It seems to me that the City of Vista should thank us and look for a resolution to help your constituents that include collaboration and partnership. Thanks again.
Thank you, sir. Julie Scott?
Good evening. I'm here in support of the community pantry and cupboard. I discovered it on Nextdoor, the Nextdoor app, and I thought, how wonderful. This was back in, I believe, April of last year. And I was watching all the struggling that was going on, and I immediately went over there and started donating food and donating books and toys and things. And in meeting Jana and Mark, I was so touched. I know that I've made a friend forever, and she truly is an angel. He truly is an angel. Their commitment to helping the community is something to behold. I don't know if any of you have had the chance to go by there and actually see the place, but when it was all set up, it was so beautiful. I've been to many grocery stores in this area that are nowhere near as clean and well-stocked and well displayed as what I saw at the pantry. Many, many hours have been spent by this lovely couple in providing this service to the community. And it's heartbreaking that one disgruntled neighbor could possibly close down something that has done so much for so many people. Everything, there were huge stuffed animals for the families that came in with children. It was the signage was full of love, and it was just a beautiful thing to behold. And my heart is broken, truly, truly broken, because I saw so much joy in the families that I saw. And I was able to share some of the things that had been donated to them with my neighbors and other people that I know that were struggling. I plead with you to look closer at this situation and to come up with some method where it can continue to exist and to bring peace and joy and food and love to this community, because we really need it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Judith Lucas?
Madam Mayor, council members, thank you for listening to us. I really appreciate it. I'm here to add my voice to the hundreds of other people who have benefited from the cupboard. You can't imagine how it is. Not only can you go and get one grapefruit if you want, but you can also take something and share it. And if you've ever played Santa Claus, you know how amazing that is, to be able to help someone else and not even take credit for it. I want you to know that food has not gone into the waste because we find a place for everything. You can go and get amazing things there. That's wonderful. So we are saving the landfill. We are saving souls and spirits by having this open. People can go there. They have dignity. It's a wonderful thing. I can't tell you how much these people have done to create a community. And that's what we really want, is to have Vista be a community that cares about every single one of us. So please consider finding a way to make their mission continue, however it has to be worked so that it happens. But please don't end this, because we need this in the world. It changes spirits and souls. It's really important. So please work with us so that we can maintain this. And thank you for listening to us.
Thank you. Alyssa Yassing?
Madam Mayor, members of the council, I'm here to speak on behalf of the Janus Food Pantry and Community Cupboard as well. For the last year and a half, my family, consisting of my husband, who is an engineer, and myself, a retired nurse, and of course our Great Dane, have relied upon Angel's Food Pantry and Community Cupboard to feed us throughout this pandemic. Although there are large San Diego-funded food pantries available to us, not all of us need a huge box of food, nor do we all eat the contents of what is offered. Some of us have special dietary needs or restrictions, such as diabetics, those with gluten restrictions, and serious interactions between certain foods and meds, just to name a few. There are those of us with smaller families who cannot consume whole bags and boxes of beans, rice, and fresh citrus before it either goes bad or accumulates each month. These are just some of the contents of the San Diego County Food Bank's monthly offerings. This is where Angel's Food Pantry and Community Cupboard come in. All of the items available to us are free of charge. They are in smaller or single portions. We're able to get 1 can of peaches instead of 2 or 3 provided from the food bank, San Diego County Food Bank, 1 or 2 potatoes, and not 5 or 10 pounds, which would, of course, in our family, wind up in the landfill. Furthermore, Angel's Community Cupboard also offers options that are not available from the food bank, such as eggs, lunch meat, hams, hot dogs, and roasts. Personal items such as toothpaste, dental floss, feminine hygiene products have also been available, again, not available at the food bank. Utilizing these items at Angel's Cupboard not only saved the county money, but we're preventing unnecessary food waste as well. Also noteworthy, available at the Angel's Food Cupboard are books for young and old and toys for children. Most of the parents who are relying on Angel's Food Pantry have been unable financially to provide young children with gifts for birthdays and other special events this past year due to the pandemic. Children don't understand. All they know is Christmas, Hanukkah, Easter, Ramadan, or Kwanzaa, and there's no gifts. Angel and Mark make sure they have those gifts. So I ran out of time, but there is a petition with over 600 names signed it on change.org along with this, and I will forward that to your emails. Thank you for your time and listening to us.
Thank you. Dan O'Donnell?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. I just want to also thank all the speakers that came out here tonight. My name is Dan O'Donnell. I'm a resident of District 4, and I'm here to support Angel's Food Pantry in Cupboard. I think it's fair to say the last year and a half, many members of our community have struggled through COVID. And I went and had a conversation with Angel yesterday. I sat and talked with her for an hour about little children that come to her cupboard, asking for food to bring home to their brothers and sisters. Families that need it, individuals that come and make sure that they have food on their table in the evening, just so they can feed their families. And Angel has been doing this for 14 months for our community. Through tears, she shared a story with me about a woman who thanked her. And the reason she thanked her is because it gave her hope that people still care about her. It gave her the belief that people are out there that want to help. And through losing everything in COVID, their home, their income, they were able to get food through this pantry, and it gave her hope. This began as an idea for a few families that could be helped in our community and grew to over 250 individuals a week for the last 14 months. I have sat in many of these meetings, and I've heard many of our council members talk. And they talk about what we can do to strengthen and resolve our community issues and what we can do to create the idea that we are one neighborhood, one city, and one Vista. This pantry upholds those standards in the highest regard. They epitomize everything and every piece of those beliefs. But it's not just that. When people go there, they find friendship. They find mental health resources. They find individuals that share a common bond with them and know that they struggle together and that there is hope at the end of the tunnel. Food security is a basic human right. We should be leading with communication rather than citation, so that we can help sustain this valuable resource for all those that are less fortunate than ourselves. I personally want to thank Angel and her husband and every member of this community who has helped make sure that our residents stay fed. To our city, to the members of this council, to our neighbors, to our community, to the 600 people that have already signed on, I urge all of you to join me and rise in support to keep this pantry open. I want to thank you all for your time, and God bless you.
Thank you. Nathan Yassin?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Deputy Mayor, council members, city officials. I am an engineer who lost his job due to the COVID-19. And what we take for granted, as simple as food, suddenly became scarce. And thank God for my wife for finding Angel's Food Pantry, where we can go at any time and find what we need, instead of going to places where they give you a huge box of things we don't need. that other people can use. And we are treated with dignity, because it's very hard to ask for food when you're down on your luck. After you are, as my wife mentioned, I'm an engineer. Going to a food place or ice cream seemed no problem. All of a sudden, it's very hard to make ends meet. So I ask you, simple as that, to please help Miss Angel's food pantry stay open. And I want to thank you for your time, for listening. Thank you, and have a nice evening.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And he's our last speaker. And actually, I believe you're going to have a meeting with our assistant city manager tomorrow, and maybe you could come up with some answers for that. With that, I will go to our council and have our remarks. Should I do mine first? I guess I could do mine first here. I'll do mine first, and then I'll go on down the line here. So let's see. So our first thing is our Wave Water Park will be open to the public for weekend operations beginning June 19th through September 6th. The admission tickets are on sale, and to the Wave will go. And the admissions tickets are on sale, and to the Wave will go on sale on its website this week. The Wave is also offering splash camps and swim lessons, and more information is available at thewavewaterpark.com. And next thing is tickets are still available for the Magical Music of Disney Moonlight Concert on Saturday, May 29th. Concert and ticket information is available online at moonlightstage.com. And then one other thing I wanted to bring to your attention is just kind of everybody watch for the Sandag 2021 regional plan that has just been released by Sandag. And some of the things you need to be aware of is that by 2035, there will no longer be HOV lanes. Everything is going to be managed lanes, and it's going to change to everyone's going to pay except for carpools with 3 or more people. Right now, you can go to managed lane as 2 or more people. It's going to be 3 or more people, and buses go for free. Other than that, everyone else will pay. And by 2050, every lane will be priced. Everyone will pay. It'll be not a freeway any longer. It'll be like a feeway. So I can't think of related to it anyway. But there also, in addition to that, there's going to be a road user charge. So every vehicle miles driven, every mile driven is going to be charged. In addition to those things, every mile is charged. And they said that the vehicle miles charge is to change people's behavior. So the feds are looking at charging 2 cents per mile. The state is also looking at charging another 2 cents per mile. And the San Diego County is looking at, they can go from 2 to 4 cents a mile on the lanes. So when you drive, it would be all of those combined, in addition to this paying on the freeway. That would be, and they say that's the only way they can change people's behaviors by charging to make make it more expensive so you take transit. So by 2050, all lanes will be priced on all freeways. So you'll be paying for everything. So vehicle miles traveled from your house all over and on the freeways. So and then also there's a per trip fee going to be added to Uber and to Lyft, added to their fees. So that's just coming down the road. So take a look if you get a chance, go online and look at the Sandag 2021 regional plan and what's coming down the road for that. So it's not all things that I actually support and that I think everybody will be happy with. So with that, I will start down the road and I'll go down to Deputy Mayor.
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor. I actually had on my list to speak about that workshop as well. I did attend the regional plan workshop as I am one of your assistants on that, one of your alternates rather on that commission. And I also came away with the same thing. And I think it's really important that the community understands what's coming down from our elected officials here in the county. Sandag has proposed 5 big moves, which is at an expense of $163 billion for the county of San Diego. We still don't know exactly what the funding source is going to be for all of the improvements improvements that they have listed, but we did find out at the regional planning workshop that there will be a fee to drive and fee lanes. I actually wrote a specific quote down by Hassan Ilhrata, who is the chair or the president of Sandag. By 2050, every lane on the freeway will be priced. By 2035, every car with less than 3 occupants will be charged for driving on all lanes on all freeways in San Diego County. So by 2035, we will start having lanes that are priced, and by 2050, every lane will be priced. I also wanted to talk about better connectivity, because there is a lot of money being spent, and it's being spent for connectivity. Right now, they estimate that about 3 to 4% of San Diegans ride. The money they're pouring into this is to get ridership up to 10%. 10% is where they're looking to get ridership to in the county, which would be a tremendous difference. They want to improve east to west connectivity. And what we tried to explain here in North County is it's kind of hard for us to jump on a bus and then go to a mobility hub and then jump on a train and get down to San Diego. It's not practical. Additionally, they don't have trains running frequent enough for us to plan our days around them and our schedules around them. So they did state here that by we're stating a 30-minute constant pickup by 2025. Right now, they're running about 40 to 45 minutes, I guess. So they want to cut the pickups down to every 30 minutes by 2025. And by 2050, trains will be running every 10 minutes. It sounds like I wrote down here that we seem to be very long on concepts and very short on details. As my constituents, I would definitely recommend that you hop on Sandag's website, see exactly what it is that they're doing. I do support a lot of it. I think it's important that we have some good mass transit and good options for the community. But I do think that we need to take a look at who actually is paying for this and who is benefiting from it. It seems like having 100% of people spending all of this money to benefit 10% of people isn't something that I'm really behind as something on this board, although I definitely do know that we need to move into the next phase when it comes to transportation. So that was a board I sit on, wanted to give a report. Something that I wanted to make sure the community aware of is Memorial Day. As far as the Memorial Day ceremony goes, at the Antique Steam and Engine Museum here in Vista, at 5 o'clock, they're going to start serving hot dogs. So if you want to bring the family out there and purchase some hot dogs, have some drinks, and hang out, that's cool. At 6:30, they're actually going to have a ceremony that's going to last about 30 minutes. There will be some veterans there. There will be a brass quartet. There's going to be a flyover, and they paint the largest American flag in North County. So if you're looking for something to do on Memorial Day, please come visit the Antique Gas and Steam Museum. They got a lot of different vendors there and things this weekend as well, and it'll be something great for the whole family. So that are all of my comments, and I thank you so much, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Franklin.
Yeah, as always, I want to thank my colleagues for a great discussion and thank staff for their great work. I too wanted to say a word about the vehicle miles traveled or VMT tax. You know, sometimes we lose sight of the fact because we've all been to Manhattan and ridden the subways. I lived in Washington, D.C. The metro there works great. But Manhattan Island and Vista are the same size. And a lot of times we lose sight of the physical proportions because New York's a huge place. You know, I love to visit it. And I wish for San Diego County that we would have a mass transit system that is as efficient as New York City has, but I don't think it has to be the same type of conveyance. I think what we want is we want it to be efficient. We want it to be clean in its energy, and we want it to be safe. And so to me, whether it's trains or it's clean electric vehicles that get us where we're going, utilizing carpooling technology, I think software is going to enable us all to carpool on a regular basis in the future. However, I've got to say that the VMT, you know, the idea that we're going to tax the miles people, we're already doing that. We've been taxing at the state and the federal level gasoline for a very long time. And you burn more gas because you drive more miles, you pay more tax. We're already disincentivizing people to drive. In California, where gasoline costs almost $1 more than it costs in the rest of the country, have we made an impact? As an open question, have we made an impact in reducing miles traveled? No. We are a state that was developed around the automobile. People travel great distances. I support wholeheartedly. I now have people working in my business who are remote. frankly, they're no longer in California. They left the state because they found better opportunities for their family economically. And now they don't commute at all. And they're doing great work. Yeah, and I'm happy to have them. But this is about the war on the poor, because those who have enough to eat and those who have enough funds to be able to afford a vacation, they're not going to be affected or hurt when you raise the cost of commuting to work. But for Vista's families who have a lower average income than the cities that surround us, this hurts working people, and it's wrong. And we ought to stand up to it. Why are we opposed to clean electric vehicles? We should be incentivizing, and we don't. For the 2+ years that I sat on NCTD, I did not see a willingness to invest, and I frequently ask my colleagues to consider investing funds in the future of autonomous vehicle transportation. I believe that we're within 15 years or maybe even 7 years of an autonomous vehicle fleet that's powered by clean energy that is going to have a dramatic impact on GHG emission, and it's going to reduce costs. I think in the future we won't own an automobile. We'll have an app, and a car will come and pick us up, and it'll be a subscription service. And I can't wait until the day when I don't have to ever take my car to get its tires changed again. I think it'd be wonderful. But warfare on the working class and the poor in this state has got to stop. I get so frustrated seeing people, the dream of every Californian and every American and every Vistan is to get home safely to their family so that they can enjoy the most precious of all resources, and that's time with the people they love. And so I appreciate Mayor, Deputy Mayor, appreciate you bringing this up. We have got to fight this at all costs, because we cannot allow them to continue the assault on people who work for a living and who do not enjoy the state of plenty that some in this state do. So thank you very much.
Councilmember Contreras.
I want to thank my colleagues, as usual, for having a very vibrant discussion, especially when we're looking at really important issues like cannabis and our budget. I just want to remind everybody that I have a trash pickup every Wednesday at 9 a.m. at Luz Duran Park. And I also actually wanted to report a little bit on North County Transit District. I do sit on the board representing the city of Vista, and I have a few updates. One of them is we're looking at a Sprinter Breeze, bringing a combo pass back, which would be an 18% reduction in cost, which I think is great. At this time, I've been an advocate for youth opportunity passes, which is free travel for youth up to the age of 24. Unfortunately, we don't have the funding for that. However, we will, as a board, continue to receive updates because it seems as though at the county level, there is a lot of interest in moving in that direction. And there's been a lot of discussions about the coaster and how to make that faster from here to San Diego. There's also a collaboration with Metrolink for certain events to have a pass. So that way you can go from here to LA and enjoy some of the things over there and then come back. And, I think it's really important that we look at mass transit. I truly do wish that there was the ability for a lot of our residents here in Vista to afford electric vehicles. That simply just is not possible when you have, not the type of income to support a purchase like that. Perhaps in the future, there will be a better secondary used market for electric vehicles. I think that's really where the working class can kind of jump into electric vehicles. But we do have just an increasing population, so we need to be able to get from one place to another. Just to give you some statistics, Those folks who are riding the Breeze, which are the buses, 71% of them make an income less than 40,000. So we need to take that into consideration as well, where about 27% of those who use the bus have an income of 15,000 or less. So any kind of fare increase really becomes a significant portion of someone's budget when you're living on 15,000 or less. I want to give an update on a solo project that I brought forward. I've heard a lot of concerns from the city of Vista residents who have children that go to Rancho Minerva Middle School. Working with Principal Christina DeSanto there in North County Transit District, it looks like we might be able to get, maybe even starting August of this year, a micro transit, essentially pilot going for more pickup and drop off for the children so they don't have to walk such a long distance. There's a significant amount of our children that go to Rancho Minerva Middle School that live off Postal Way. Some that live, in my district, and they're going all the way to the edge of Deputy Mayor Green's district. So I look forward to that project, not only it moving forward, but being successful. So those are just some of the updates that I have. And with that, I hope everybody does enjoy Taco Tuesday. I haven't heard Taco Tuesday yet today, so I'm gonna say Taco Tuesday. Live it up, Vista.
Councilmember Melendez.
Awesome. Thank you, Madam Mayor, and to my awesome colleagues on the council. I don't have much to add. I was going to give a thank you to Jana and friends for her efforts to be neighborly and to feed our community. I think that that's really important, and we'll be continuing to communicate with our city and our city staff to try to find solutions to make sure that those connections can remain and that good work can go on. But mostly I'm just celebrating that this is my first in-person council meeting, and I am so happy to be here. I'm really grateful, and I'm only going to get better. So I'm working really hard for Vista, and thank you all. Hope you have a really blessed night.
City Manager Patrick.
Thank you, Mayor. So I want to correct a figure I provided earlier regarding the cost of installing a street light. I was a tad bit high in my estimate, but the cost of installing a street light is somewhere between $30,000 and $40,000, a new street light, and it depends on the network. It depends on the undergrounding issues that you may encounter, kind of the lay of the land. But that's kind of an estimate that we're using right now is about $30,000 to $40,000. And the cost to operate a light also depends on the wattage and variable factors. But on average, it's a little less than $50 is what we get charged as a flat rate from SDG&E. So wanted to set the record straight, at least on the cost of a new street light. So I do have a few updates for you. As mentioned, Memorial Day is May 31st, this Monday, and city offices as well as the library will be closed, and trash will be delayed one day that week. So trash will be delayed all the way through Saturday. Next Tuesday, June 1st, we have a virtual city council meeting, I think as all of you know, on the dais. This is a special meeting to discuss the climate action plan. It's also a meeting where we're going to discuss community choice energy as well. So it will be over Zoom. It is at 5:30 p.m. and the agenda report and details will be released to the public tomorrow before mid-afternoon. So if you're interested in that, you can go to cityofvista.com. Pleased to say, as Sarah mentioned during the budget presentation, that youth sports, adult sports through our recreation department are coming back. So the fall sports are back and registration is also on Tuesday, June 1st. And if you want information on girls volleyball, youth flag football, adult softball, you can go to our website at vistarecreation.com and find out more information, but that will take place for signups on June 1st. I want to congratulate the Vista Fire Department for attaining its reaccredited status with the Commission on Fire accreditation, there's a T in there, I always miss, international. Vista is the only civilian fire department in the county to have this status. So congratulations to Chief Vanderpool and his team. There's a lot of work to go through that process, and the mayor and I were fortunate to be part of it last week and receive the good word. And then my last comment tonight is I wanted to congratulate our new Assistant City Manager, Amanda Lee, who is sitting in the back there. Amanda's work, yes. So Amanda's worked for the city, as all of you know, for about 9 years. And I think each of you have had the pleasure of working with Amanda, and she's going to be a great addition in her new role. So I just wanted to congratulate her publicly. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, how about our attorney, Daryl Piper?
Nothing this evening, Mayor. Thank you.
City clerk down there? The one I can't see? Kathy Valdez?
Nothing, thank you.
Okay. With that, in adjourning, I'd like to adjourn tonight's meeting in honor of the memory of Dr. Valerie Graben. It's Dr. Val, I don't know how many of you know, she's a longtime veterinarian who passed away unexpectedly. She's on South Santa Fe, kind of near Vons by the car wash there, and at Altamira Animal Hospital. And she took care of my dogs for like 20 years, but she took care of so many people. I used to mentor people all over that go there, went there. So it's very, very sad and very unexpected. So I want to adjourn tonight in her honor and sympathy to her staff who were her family. And so let's do that with that. And so with that, we will adjourn at 7:40 if the clock is correct. It was a little bit fast, so it might be 7:39. We are adjourned. I know the Kathy down there that I can't see.